Alright, this one is for Jen in Japan and Rossexton. It's dark here, so let me turn it this way, that's better. Ross posted a video asking about the life philosophies, and Jen responded. And then I got a message from Jen on Twitter basically inviting me to offer my own. I watched Ross's video, very interesting. I liked your suggestions there, Ross. Pardon me, I've had a few. I'm having a canned chew high right now, one of my favorites here. Seems like I enjoy a beer more, but sometimes these are fun to have as well. Anyway, Jen, I watched your video as well. I like that as well. And I thought I'd go ahead and, since I was invited, I'll go ahead and throw out my own for whatever it's worth. But it's actually not going to be my own. It's going to be the suggestion. Let me take another drink here. Get in the right spirit, so to speak, and to channel the spirit a little bit. Let me take one more drink to introduce the one of the many interesting thoughts and observations of my father. Alan Wendell Bell's been gone 19 years. Everyone knew him as Grizzly in the last couple decades of his life, and as Grizzly and as Alan, he was a man of big deeds and very, very curious words. He and his confederacy of friends, Wild Man and Action Jackson and Bison Breath and the whole host of others, they all had their own little handles there. They lived life, and those that are still remain live to continue to live life without. Would it be wrong to say without regard to consequence? That would be wrong to say without regard to consequence. They took consequences seriously, and they had a high level of standards that they held themselves, and they continue to hold themselves to. However, they took no prisoners when it came to enjoying life and to squeezing the essence out of the moments that came their way. As a result, my childhood was one of, and the childhood shared by my brother Lyle, and the children of those men, the families, the wives of those men, the experience of the years that we spent together in the early 70s, and basically the decade of the 70s, the decade of the declining hippie era, with long hairs and the smell of wheatgrass and the smell of other grass, and campfires long into the night, and the sound of laughter to a spinata flavored wine. And the freedom and the disregard for convention that bred the ideas of those men, those core figures in my young life. They caused at one point the invocation of a phrase that has carried on in my life. I perpetuated on my channel, the LylesBrother's channel, and if you ever watch a LylesBrother video, if you've ever visited my channel, you'll see that the videos always end. They always fade to a black screen. At the bottom right side, you'll see DBAD. That stands for "Don't Blow Any Dogs." Now, the meaning of those words, "don't blow any dogs," actually remains a bit of a mystery. I don't know who came up with it, and it doesn't really matter who came up with it. One of the men came up with it. Important point was that it was latched onto by the group and invoked as a salutation. Well, not really a salutation. It was invoked as a fare thee well. Whenever they would say goodbye to one another, they would say, "Don't blow any dogs." On the phone, I would often hear my dad say, "Don't blow any dogs," and on the CB radios and traveling, I would hear, "Don't blow any dogs," and just in every capacity. Now, this was a phase of life when there was really four men that were the main core of that group. When those four men had basically been gone through a lot of trials in their life as well as joys. They were well into their latter 40s and drawing into their early to mid 50s, and life had not been easy, although it had been blessed in many capacities. But there have been many challenges as well for all of them, and therefore the term "don't blow any dogs" was not applied with youthful mirth. It was applied with middle-aged, bearing on senior grit and masculine determination to squeeze life what little might remain, in a relative sense, for all it's worth. And for my father, that term was used in roughly the last decade of his life. He died at 55, and he made good application for those last 10 years that he was around. I would probably say he lived more in the last 10 years of during the period of don't blow any dogs than he may have in the prior 45. To that end, I utilize the abbreviation DBAD in all of my videos, and even though I rarely say the sentiment, except to my brother Lyle, who's one of those who understands it, I reserve the ideas in mind whenever I'm endeavoring in my life, when I'm walking through the social elements and enjoying discourse with my friends and doing the necessities with my coworkers. I keep that in mind, and what it really is more is an endeavor to live, is what it really is. Because at their heart, the men that formed the core of my childhood experience were, for the most part, skeptics. And that doubt caused them, and the pain that they had experienced caused them to, and the sense of their dying mortality. Can you say that? Can you say a dying mortality? Can we have a dying mortality? Indeed, what could be more mortal? What could be more fatal than mortality itself? Their dying mortality brought about DBAD, don't blow any dogs. Although they never said DBAD, they said don't blow any dogs, with this full anger, resonance, joy, and frustration all mixed into one. It's a term that really can't be used by the young. A 20-something saying don't blow any dogs sounds like wearing the coat of the aged. It doesn't fit. You have to have suffered to say don't blow any dogs with any sincerity. You have to have suffered, and I'm not talking about the suffering of a broken heart, or the suffering of not being sure about what the hell to do with your life. And I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm not offering any criticisms to anybody that's going through that at the particular stage of their life. If you're a 30-something or 20-something and you're going through that, I have full sympathy. I know that the pain and the challenge is very, very real. But if you're lucky, you'll know far greater pain later in life. I once wished upon my good friend Anthony Bowman lots. I once wished upon him much failure and pain. I can't quite remember how I worded it to him. He took it in the right way, though. Young man that he is, he was wise. I was wished upon him. What the heck did I say to him? Anyway, the stuff that you're experiencing in your 20s and your 30s, as painful as it is, doesn't really compare to the stuff that may come later. And I don't want people hearing that to give up. I don't want anybody to go run and jump off a bridge thinking that I'm telling them that they have terrible things to come, because as we all know, the best things come from the excavations of our darkness, of the dark encounters that we have. So your blessings are coming in good measure when the pain comes. Yet, when that happens, that's when don't blow any dogs is applicable. When you have had your insides turned out and your soul rendered asunder, if the soul exists at all. It's a term I throw out at this point. But once that's happened, and you know what real pain is, no, that's not a good thing to say. I shouldn't say real pain, because the pain that the 20-something feels is real. that later feels is real. When you know, when you've been across the abyss and back again, that's the way to say it. The 20-somethings are going across the abyss likely for the first or second or third time. It has not until you've been across the abyss, or then maybe each abyss is different, for the 10th or the 15th time, and you've had some time to glimpse into the depth of it. That's when Don't Blow Any Dogs really works, because you see the end and you know there's no way to get around it. You know that time is running out. And if you're not fortunate, one of the fortunate ones, if you're one of the fortunate ones who has religion, then you have an out. If you're like me and you don't have religion, you have no out. You only have a dark eternity to face. And when that happens, Don't Blow Any Dogs comes into its own, and it causes you to gather the instinct and the apprehension. No, and gather the instinct and disregard the apprehension. Gather the instinct of the beast and disregard the apprehension of the wise man, and go after what is most genuine. That only works, though, if in the preceding 35, 45 years you have developed a persona, not a persona, if you've developed a regard for good as you perceive it. Tough time with that part that I said, as you perceive it. If you've developed, let me summarize this. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. Try to put it back. 20s and 30s give you the first taste of the abyss. When you reach your 40s and your 50s, and you've gone over it a number of times, you realize that your death is at hand. You're then in a position to begin to truly make good use of the time that's left to you. If in those 30 or 40 years you have made of yourself a man or a woman who seeks after what you think is the best for yourself and others, or the opposite, for others and yourself, putting others first, you will be in a position to really make some good strides in life. You will be in a position to enjoy life greatly without taking away from others. Enjoy life without using others as the fodder of your pleasure. To enjoy life without trampling asunder the welfare of others. That's the key. And that's what Don't Blow Any Dogs is about. And it can only be, and so it's to get to the point of being able to use Don't Blow Any Dogs, you must, in your 20s, develop a resistance to giving in to the temptations that will come your way, the temptations of exploitation of others, the temptation to use others for your own well-being, and the temptation to basically do evil. I think that's the good word to use. You have to define evil, and then develop the resistance to the temptation to perform evil. And then in your 30s, you'll practice that, and you'll make it into a routine. And during the 20s and the 30s, you'll have episodes of suffering, you'll have episodes of joy. When you reach your 40s, and perhaps your early 50s, depending on who you are, you'll begin to sense the end of days. Jim and I were just talking about this last week. Jim and I we're both in our 40s now, and we were saying, hey, 20, 30 years, that's all we got. For me, maybe 10, 15, 20, like that. When you get to that point that you start to realize that's a reality, that there ain't no, this is the time to do it, and you have developed a character that is willing to sacrifice your self-interest for the benefit of others, or at least to not perform evil, you're in a position to use Don't Blow Any Dogs. And that will then free you to turn on a camera at Family Mart and suffer the stares, and there's nobody here now, but while I was filming there were lots of people, suffer the stares and the inquisition of others, but I'm not doing anybody any harm. I'm filming myself. But I couldn't do this when I was 20 years old. I would be too self-conscious of the eyes upon me. But I know I'm not doing any evil. I know I'm not doing anyone any harm. I'm not blowing any dogs. I don't blow any dogs. This is DBAD right here, right here. These people are pulling up right now, and who cares? I'm not going to film them. But I am going to talk at this camera, and they're going to think I'm nuts. But I'm exploiting it because I know I only got 10 or 15 years left. So, the message then, if I'm going to offer a life philosophy to Ross and to Jen, is to use your 20s to find your definition of what good and evil is, and use your 30s to practice it through the trials that come, and then in your 40s and 50s, when death is more sincere in aspect and presence than ever before. Begin to say, don't blow any dogs, and to live the way that it live the message that it implies. Now I understand why. For my father, Grizzly, and Wildman, and Bison Breath, and Action Jackson, and all the rest. Now I know why they began to use DBA, don't blow any dogs, when they became in their late 40s and 50s. And now I know why. And I thank you, Ross, for this, and thank you, Jen, for starting this, because I never really understood why don't blow any dogs became their watch term until when it did, until just now. And now I understand. And now I understand why I'm using it now. And I hope that whatever I've been able to share here in my bit of intoxicated stupor, and you know what? Being a little bit intoxicated sometimes isn't a bad thing. I know sometimes I turn the camera on and it seems like I drink a lot. I really don't drink very much. I drink one or two cans every couple of nights, and but it does something. You know, a little bit of intoxication serves to loosen the tongue, and serves to help the muse come more quickly in some ways. And it's also a heck of a lot of fun. So I'm going to finish off now with a long final sip of my Chu-Hai, in anticipation of the long final sip of life, which is to come in the next decade or two. And in the meantime, I will issue the sentiment of don't blow any dogs at each and every opportunity, making sure that I never make anyone suffer for the pleasure that I experience and for the inspiration that I know. And with that, I'm going to leave you all. Have a great night. And thanks Ross, and thanks Jen for inviting me into this. Take care.